You know how people say their first job changes them? For me, that was way too true. It all started back in 2017 when I was 17 years old and trying to save up for a used car. My aunt helped me land a part-time gig delivering pizzas for this little mom-and-pop place called Benny's Pies and Slices in a quiet suburb outside Columbus, Ohio. It wasn't fancy or anything, but they paid okay, and the manager didn't breathe down your neck. So I was happy. I didn't think the job would be exciting. It was just pizza, drive, deliver, repeat. And for the first month or so, it was exactly that. Super chill. I'd throw on my hoodie, cue up some podcasts, and cruise around town for a few hours after school. Most people were polite. Tips weren't amazing, but fine enough. Nothing weird, that is, until one Friday night. That was the night things got messed up. It was late, almost closing time. We were cleaning up, stacking empty boxes, mopping the back floor. Then this order comes in, just a single medium pepperoni, nothing fancy. But the delivery address caught my eye. It was for Briarwood Park. Now, if you're from the area, you know that place has a reputation. Not haunted exactly, but off. People say strange stuff happens there at night. You don't hear birds in the trees. The streetlights flicker. Dogs whine when they get near the gate. Kids say there's something in the woods watching. But I was new. I didn't believe in that kind of stuff. I figured whatever. It's probably just a prank or someone who forgot to change their address. Still, my gut felt weird about it. I even joked with Benny, yeah, the owner, "You sure this isn't a setup?" He just laughed and handed me the pizza box. "Go earn your tip, hero." The drive over was quiet, but as I got closer to the park, everything felt heavier, like the air itself got thicker. I turned down Birch Hollow Lane, the road that runs along the edge of Briarwood. No other cars, no porch lights, just trees and cracked sidewalks. When the GPS said I'd arrived, I slowed down and looked around. On the left were a few dark houses spaced far apart. On the right was the park entrance, just a faded wooden sign and a rusted gate that didn't even close properly. And that's when I noticed something strange. The pin on the GPS pointed inside the park. Now that was weird. Who orders pizza into a park at night? I double-checked the address, even pulled it up on Google Maps. Sure enough, it was listed as Briarwood Park Trail Entrance. I thought maybe it was a group of teens hanging out. Maybe they didn't want their parents to know they ordered food, so against my better judgment, I parked, took the pizza, and stepped into the park. The second I passed the gate, it was like entering a different world. The wind stopped. Not slowed, stopped. The trees weren't moving, not even a whisper. I couldn't hear anything. No bugs, no rustling, not even the gravel crunching under my shoes. Just silence, like the world hit pause. A single path led into the woods, dimly lit by these old-fashioned street lamps that buzzed and flickered. I followed it cautiously, holding the pizza with both hands like it was a shield. About 50 feet in, I spotted a bench just barely lit under one of the lamps, and sitting on that bench was a man. He looked maybe early 30s, dressed in a baggy hoodie and jeans. He waved at me kind of lazily, like he was half asleep. "Hey, you got the pizza?" he called out, voice cracking a little. "Yeah," I said, still walking slowly. I kept my distance at first. Something about him didn't sit right. His hands were shaking as he fumbled for his wallet. His eyes darted back and forth like he was waiting for someone else to show up. "You all right?" I asked. He laughed, but it wasn't a normal laugh. It was hollow, almost like a cough. Yeah, I'm okay. Everything's okay. Everything's gonna be okay," he said it again. And again, like he was trying to convince himself. That's when I noticed the sweat on his forehead, and the way he kept glancing over my shoulder, into the woods. Then he froze. His eyes locked on something behind me, and the blood drained from his face. I turned, and that's when I saw him. A tall figure stood maybe 10 feet away, right at the edge of the trees. He wore a long black coat, and over his face was a dirty, stitched-up cloth mask with dark eye holes. He didn't move, just stood there. Then, without a sound, he pulled a knife from under his coat and raised it. I didn't even get a chance to scream before he rushed us. "Drop your phone, wallet, keys, now!" he shouted, his voice rough and loud like broken glass. I obeyed. I threw everything onto the dirt path, but he didn't pick any of it up. Instead, he jabbed the knife toward us and barked, "Move into the woods." Both of you. Now, I wanted to run. My legs were shaking so hard I could barely move, but the blade was too close. So I walked. The guy from the bench followed, looking as terrified as I felt. We walked deeper and deeper into the forest, away from the path, away from any light. I tried to memorize the turns, count my steps, but panic scrambled my brain. Branches snapped underfoot. The air got colder. At some point, I swear I heard breathing behind me that didn't match our footsteps, and then it happened. The guy next to me suddenly shoved me hard into a patch of thick underbrush and took off. Running, I hit the ground hard, scratched up and confused. The masked man hesitated for a second, then took off after him, and just like that, they were gone. I didn't wait. I scrambled up and bolted in the other direction, blindly crashing through branches and leaves until I saw the faint orange glow of the path's lamps again. I don't remember screaming, but my throat was raw by the time I reached the road. I called the police from a house a block away. An older couple let me in while I waited, and I could barely explain what happened. Cops searched the woods that night. They never found the man in the mask, or the other guy. Nobody ever claimed the pizza order. Weeks went by. I had nightmares. Couldn't go near a park. Quit my job at Benny's. Even now, years later, I still lock my car doors at every stop, even in broad daylight. And I can't stop thinking about that man on the bench. Was he part of it, a lure? Or just another victim? I keep replaying that moment when he pushed me. Maybe he did it to save himself. Maybe he thought the masked man would grab me instead. I don't know. But the scariest part? That attacker didn't want money. He didn't care about my phone, my cash, or even my car keys. He wanted us. Whatever he was planning, it wasn't robbery, and if that guy hadn't run, I don't think I'd be here telling you this story. So if you ever get a late-night delivery order near Briarwood Park, don't go in. No tip is worth what's waiting in those woods. This happened back in the fall of 2017, when I was 19 and working part-time at a pizza place in a little town called Rock Hill. It wasn't a big chain, just a mom-and-pop joint where you knew everyone's name and smelled like garlic and burnt crust all the time. I worked the late shift on weekends, mostly deliveries since I had an old car and not much of a social life. That night, it was just past 2 in the morning when I left the shop with one last pizza to deliver. My boss, Angie, had already turned off the open sign and I was ready to be done. The order was way out near the edge of town, almost to where the forest takes over and the roads start to feel more like paths than streets. The road I took, Hollow Creek Lane, was a weird one. Locals avoided it at night. No streetlights, no traffic, no houses for miles. Just trees on both sides and fog that never seemed to go away, even on clear days. But it was the fastest way across town, so I used it all the time. That night, though, it felt different. At first, everything was normal. I had the window cracked, the radio playing softly, and the pizza riding shotgun. But after about 10 minutes, something about the car felt off. Like it was dragging, or like the tires were heavy. I glanced at the dashboard. Gas gauge showed half, no warning lights. Everything looked fine, but it didn't feel fine. A few more minutes passed and the car started to jerk forward like it was hiccuping. Then it just gave up. No sputter, no warning, just stopped accelerating. I coasted it to the side of the road, half on the grass, and let out a long, tired sigh. Seriously? I muttered, turning the key again. Nothing. Just that useless click. I got out to check things even though I had no clue what I was looking for. The air was cold and damp, and the fog seemed thicker out there. My breath came out in little clouds, and the only sound was the ticking of the engine cooling down. No cars, no animals, just trees and silence. Then I turned around and froze. There was someone standing way down the road, just barely visible through the fog. Not moving, just standing there like a shadow carved out of the mist. I couldn't see a face or even be sure it was a person at first. Just this tall, still figure dead center on the road. I got back in the car fast and locked the doors. My heart was pounding. I told myself it could have been someone out walking, maybe a jogger or another driver who broke down. But who jogs at 2 a.m. in the middle of nowhere? I called my cousin Jesse. He was the kind of guy who'd drive across the state to pick you up if you asked. Luckily, he was just heading home from a friend's house and said he'd be there in about 30 minutes. I thanked him and then called the customer to explain. They were surprisingly chill about it, said no worries. Now all I had to do was wait. I checked the mirrors, no sign of that figure anymore. I tried to laugh it off. Maybe it was just my imagination or a tree-shaped weird in the fog. I opened the pizza box and stole a slice. Not like the customer was going to want cold pizza anyway. But the longer I sat there, the worse I felt. That road felt wrong. The fog had this weight to it, like it was pressing against the windows. I kept looking at the tree line, half expecting something to come walking out of it. About 20 minutes later, I started hearing things. It was faint at first. Soft crunching like someone walking on dry leaves. I leaned forward, staring into the fog, my stomach twisting into knots. The sound got louder, closer. Then I saw him. A man stepped out from the trees maybe 20 feet away. He was tall, wearing a long, dark coat that hung past his knees. His face was pale, almost gray, and his eyes didn't seem to blink. He walked right up to my window and smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the kind of smile that says, "I know something you don't." He tapped on the glass. I didn't move. Just stared at him. Sorry," I said, trying to sound calm. "I can't roll the window down." He didn't say a word. Just tried the door handle, click, locked. Then he started walking around the car. I couldn't see him for a second, but I heard him, his boots crunching behind me. I checked the rearview mirror and saw him crouched near the trunk, fiddling with something. It looked like he was holding a tool, or a weapon. I couldn't tell. My hands were shaking, and then, thank God, headlights. A car was coming up behind me through the fog. The man stood up fast, looked toward the lights, then bolted. He ran back into the woods like he'd done it 100 times before, vanished in seconds. It was Jesse. He pulled up behind me and jumped out of his truck, looking around. "You saw him, right?" I asked as I stumbled out of the car. Jesse nodded, eyes still on the woods. "Yeah, and he had a gun. We didn't wait." I jumped in his truck and we left my car behind without a second thought. Later that morning, we called the cops. They towed the car and found it had been broken into. The glove box was ripped open, the trunk latch busted. My gas tank? Totally empty. The meter had been stuck. What I thought was half a tank was actually fumes, the worst part. The police never found the guy. No prints, no reports, nothing on the security cameras at nearby intersections. They said it was probably just a random criminal trying his luck. But I don't buy it. He didn't look surprised when I saw him. He didn't act panicked when I spoke. He looked like he was waiting for me, like he knew I'd be there. And Hollow Creek? Turns out that road has stories. People say they've seen shapes in the fog, heard knocking on their car doors. Some even say they've seen a pale man in a coat just standing in the middle of the road, staring. I don't use that road anymore, and whenever I'm out late, I make sure I've got a full tank and someone who knows where I am. Because sometimes you don't get lucky. Sometimes the man in the fog doesn't run when the headlights show up, and sometimes he knocks again. So this happened a few years back, 2021 I think, when I was 19. My name's Jay, and at the time, I was working part-time delivering pizzas for a small joint called Benny's Pizza. It was one of those old-school places tucked between a dry cleaner and a nail salon in a strip mall. Not exactly the kind of job you dream about, but it helped cover gas and textbooks. Plus, they let me work weekends since I was taking night classes during the week. I did the closing shifts on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. That meant hanging around till after midnight, delivering whatever late-night orders came in. It wasn't a busy place, so honestly, I spent more time scrolling through my phone and messing around in the back with my coworker Darius than actually working. But then there was that one night. The night I still think about way too often. It was a Saturday in early November, cold but not snowing yet. The kind of night where the air just feels heavy, like the wind is holding its breath. It was about 11:15 p.m. when the phone rang. Darius answered, scribbled something down on the pad, and gave me a weird look. "Hey, this one's for Willow Lane. Ever been there?" he asked. I shook my head. "Nope." He raised his eyebrows. "Old part of town. Pretty dead at night. Creepy houses and no streetlights. People say it's haunted or whatever." I laughed. "Cool. Guess I'll bring a flashlight." The order was simple. Large pepperoni paid online, no special instructions. Except, there kind of was. As I pulled up the driveway of the house in number 306 Willow Lane, I got this strange feeling. You know that sensation when you walk into a room and forget what you were looking for? That uneasy, off-balance feeling? It was like that, but worse. The house looked wrong. Not broken down, not abandoned, just off. The porch light was on, but barely flickering, like it was struggling to stay alive. The grass was way overgrown, and the windows were covered with those old lace curtains people only use in horror movies. I grabbed the pizza, walked up the porch steps, yawned, which creaked like bones under my feet, and was about to ring the bell when I saw it. A white sheet of paper taped right over the doorbell. The handwriting was neat but stiff, like someone was trying too hard to be normal. Do not knock. Do not ring. Wait quietly. I read it twice, then a third time. It wasn't torn or weathered. Brand new paper, fresh ink, made for me. I stood there, awkward, holding the pizza like an idiot. Then I pulled out my phone and called the number listed on the order. It rang once. Then I heard it. A ringtone. Not from my phone. From inside the house. It was faint, like it was coming from way in the back, but clear enough to make the hairs on my arms stand up. A basic ringtone, maybe the default one. It rang 2 more times, then stopped. My screen said, "Call declined." Now I was getting nervous. I glanced around. The entire street was dead quiet. No cars, no porch lights, just cold air and silent houses. I leaned in a little closer to the door, trying to listen. Nothing. No footsteps, no TV, not even the hum of appliances. And then, out of nowhere, bang, 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 a stampede of footsteps exploded from somewhere upstairs, crashing down a staircase. I actually stepped back off the porch. It was so loud and sudden. I thought someone was about to burst through the door. Then, silence. Again. I waited. Nothing happened. I had this weird sensation that someone was standing on the other side of the door, just watching. I didn't see any movement in the windows, but you can feel it when someone's there, you know? Finally, the door creaked open just a few inches. A man stood there, maybe late 40s, balding, wearing a gray hoodie with the hood up and pajama pants. His eyes looked blank. Not tired, empty. "I've got your pizza," I said, holding it out. My voice cracked a little. He didn't say anything. He just reached out, took the box, and started to close the door. Thump. A loud, deep thud echoed from somewhere inside the house. It wasn't a dropped object. It sounded like something heavy fell, or someone. I froze. So did the man. Just for a second. Then he slammed the door shut. Click. Lock. I heard him run, actually run, down the hallway. Then silence. Total, suffocating silence. I stood there for a minute trying to shake it off. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe he dropped something earlier. Maybe he was just weird, but something didn't sit right. That noise didn't sound like something dropping. It sounded alive. I got in my car and drove a few blocks away, parked in a grocery store lot, and called the non-emergency police line. I told them everything. The weird instructions, the noise, the declined call, all of it. They said they'd send someone to check it out. An hour later, I got a call back from the officer who responded. "House looks normal," he said. "Guy lives there alone. Says he didn't hear anything unusual." But I heard something, I insisted. There was a second phone. It rang from the back of the house. And that sound, probably the TV or something, the cop said. Nothing suspicious. "Have a good night." Click, that was it. But I know what I heard. I know someone else was in that house, and here's the thing that still gets to me. That ringtone? It wasn't a random sound. It was the same ringtone I used to have. I changed mine a few weeks before that night. I never gave it much thought. Until that moment. What if that wasn't just some other phone? What if it was my old ringtone because it was my old phone? I still don't have answers. Maybe it was just a weird dude in a creepy old house. Or maybe someone else was inside. Someone who didn't want to be found. All I know is I'll never go back to Willow Lane. And every time I hear that ringtone, in a store, in a movie, anywhere, my heart drops a little. Because maybe that sound isn't just a phone. Maybe it's someone still trying to call for help.